你記得人有 sinful nature，
You know that we all have sinful nature.
你冇可能完全 opposite sex， 你佢哋內心嘅深處了解啲生命嘅大志。
You cannot really simply allow someone of the opposite sex to get really to the inmost of your being.
因為真危險。
Because that's actually a very
你
dangerous
知
zone.
人及人是感情嘅關建立起嚟嘅。
So between human beings, what reign is emotion, the kind of affection.
好似我教人徵婚嘅時陣，
So every time I preach a message to the newlywed,
我就 before 會叫做 premarital counselling，
so I would give them premarital counseling.
及你講話走沙筆啊，走了解啊。
So I would talk to them about the story of their love affairs.
真最冷是真衰恨做沙筆，見啦做沙筆，要地玩做沙筆，哇靠啊！要地玩啊！
So actually many of those couples, they have known each other since they were in kindergarten years.
但係真最是開始唔沙筆，沙級結這公司，沙級創始行大志。哎呀，跨嚟跨去，跨嚟跨去，哎呀，跨到好些啊！
So they've known each other since kindergarten years, but through time they get into a common job and then they begin to build their relations there.
你記得啦？
Remember,
人及人是感情建立起嚟嘅。
so human beings, their affection for each other is built through emotions.
人嗱及人還嘅都是感情發生滿對嘅大志。
So every time you fight with someone, you quarrel with someone, it's because of an emotional outburst.
但呢個咩錢人無錢嘅時陣，
So every time there's a problem between you and your
即
relatives,
係是堅固無殺策無講話，即係慢慢攞誒行起個。
so gradually through time, you get farther and farther away, you just drift apart.
既然是咁呢，
If that is the case,
你就唔應該學別人別佢哋生命嘅內心嘅深處，而即係 opposite sex竟然唔是你嘅丈夫，唔是你嘅太太。
because if that is the case, the more you shouldn't allow someone of the opposite sex who's not your husband or your wife to get into the inmost of your being.
我結婚10年啊，
I've been married for 18 years.
我真慳時及另外一個女嘅出去。
I hardly go out with another woman.
我講真慳時，
I say it's a on rare
因為對我
occasions.
印象裏面有一擺，
Because there was that only one occasion when I did.
但是我真聰明，
But I'm pretty clever.
頭先個牧師了講啫，
So I told my wife about it.
這是大神機必安，大神講清楚啫。
It's like a precautionary measure.
我講牧師了話，我不及這個女嚟去飲咖啡。
So I told my wife I'm going to have coffee with this woman.
這個女仔一百嘢，
My wife actually knows this
因為
woman.
有大事發生，
There's something, a problem that occurs.
而家我講話，
So this person needed my
我
advice.
大聲通知牧師了啫。
So I forwarded this request to my wife.
我去特落，
So I told her where I'm
幾
going,
點去，
what time I'm going,
幾點要到嚟，
what time I'm coming home.
當中寫清清楚楚教佢。
So I wrote it down and handed it to my wife.
你唔制啊？
You just don't know.
世界落咗冷戰嘅波咧，
There are so many people who they are
我嗱
gossipers.
冇講哦，
Because if I don't tell my wife
就
that,
係有兩個牧師佬講嘅
there will
哦。
certainly be someone who will report to my wife.
我上介紹教你講，我都唔知愛講冇愛講，哎呀。
So there will be some people who will say, I need to tell you something, but you know I just couldn't
係咪
tell
你
you.
講你講啦？
So the person would say, why don't you just say it?
我睇到牧師啦，
I saw the pastor
及住個女啊，
with a woman.
飲咖啡，
They are having coffee together.
個超啊掛起哦。
Oh, they are so happy together.
我話死咯，我死咯，未死
And
咯。
that's my,
但是呢件事是特別嘅 special occasion，
but that rare instance was a special instance.
只有一擺，
There's just that one time.
冇第二擺咯，
No second time.
冇第二擺咯，
Never a second time.
叫做幫襯啊！
May God help us.
我家己我 personal， 我家己本身較愛，我愛，咁 refer 這樣代志。
I personally would like to tell you personal preference.
嗱，只俾借我嘅車，
So if there's a sister in my car,
我比較愛借我後壁，
I would prefer that she sits at the back seat.
我冇愛借我鼻頭。
I don't want her to be beside me.
我想你講，哎呀，排泄，佢最車頭。
So the sister would say, but that's too embarrassing because I'm making you my driver.
60歲以上嘅最借鼻頭，60歲以上。
If you're 60 and above, and you're a
60歲
woman,
以
you
後
can
借後
sit
壁
beside
就好咯。
If you're 60 below, you take a back
我
seat.
比較愛我係借我後壁，唔但借我鼻頭，
I feel safer when they are seated at the back
因為這個是我近超咩借。
because this is where my wife should be sitting.
你唔能跨見這樣計住哦。
Never belittle this
你
incident
見你世界最冷戰嘅波哦。
because there are many gossipers in this world.
我只不過我拿借車，
So, for example, there was one time I'm driving a car
鼻頭這個路誒，
And then
邊度一個路誒？
there's a woman beside me.
你話口行啊順，
So we are on the road.
哎呀有人看到，
Too bad somebody saw us.
後嚟個牧師佬講，
So they came to tell my wife about it.
牧師佬有這樣弟子哦，唔知你制啊是唔制啊？
I really would like, I really don't know if you know something about something.
我覺得牧師
I saw the pastor.
隻話車邊度有一個路啦，
He was driving and there's a woman seated beside
哇
him.
個牧師講啊超意哦，
They were so happy. They looked so happy together.
當門對咯。
So that's a big problem.
我話車真衰啲啊！
So when I'm driving a car, I'm very careful.
頂翻我爭我見到我梗係時盡，
So when I send my children to
我
school,
特別其實即係神誕未失後邊度先嘅腳機即係邋遢慳啲嘅所在，
so I would pass through the Nagdahan Lake.
機個後邊有一個先嘅 beach， 機個即係示範啊，鳩即係乜解啲嘅所在。
There's another bridge there that I would take that leads to C5.
但是我嗱屈力機我上真 traffic 啦，
So this is actually a area of heavy traffic.
但是你要注意噃，
But
我
you know-
真最 hotel 啊，呢個 motel 啊，真最咩跳嘅啦，
There are many advertisements on hotels and motels.
你話車條機個，
So things where you can actually just drive in.
你 open 一個 drive 用呢條機啊，
It has a driveway that you can just get in.
呢就
get
shortcut
through.
啦，呢係 shortcut 啦，
So it's called the shortcut.
呢就一步，我唔加力機啊，
I wouldn't dare get in through the motel.
特別我鼻頭流路嘅，我唔加力機啊，
Especially if there's a woman right beside
我
me.
嗱力機出機死咯，多就一個接數，多一勁嘅。
Because if I get through the motel and somebody by chance saw me with another woman,
你佢 emergency meeting，
so there will be an emergency meeting here in
我
the
嗰條
church.
牧師及隻都條 motel 出嚟，
So the person will say, I testify, I saw the pastor with a woman, they just came out from a motel.
實際出嚟啊，冇標錯啊，
So there's really no hiding it because we really came out from the motel.
啱唔啱？
So how do I do that?
所以我另外小骨踢隻跳虛嗰時，先無法掛點正我，叫早下面從力機水走，
So unless I'm in a rush, I will never pass through a motel.
衰啲啊！
So take precaution.
咱若無 keep 一個叫做 safe distance，
If we don't keep a safe distance,
有信大事發生啊！
there will be untoward things that happen.
我知啊，咱實在冇大事啊，我知啊，
Actually, at first you say there's really nothing between the two of
即係
us.
好朋友嘛，好朋
We're
友。
just good friends.
但是好朋友就是變咗好朋友，你知冇？
But good friends can be better friends.
你若冇 keep 一個 distance，
Unless you keep a safe distance,
問題就嚟咯。
then problem arises.
既然已經有結婚了咯，
Since you're already married,
你就需要 keep 一個 distance with opposite sex。
you need to keep a safe distance between you and the opposite sex.
你若未結婚，
If you're unmarried,
除非你被結婚，
unless you two are getting
你
married,
就拉錢咯個。
then you can become more and more intimate.
男士，
If not,
你也是注意哦，
and then you also take note.
你唔等及大家都錢錢哦。
Don't be too friendly to everyone.
哇，嗰個男我是小雞 friendly 哦，
There are certain kind of men, they are so friendly.
及大家都好嘅，嗨，哇！
So he exudes some kind of warmth to every
你
woman.
講大家都拿最及你好，係咪就？
So every woman thinks that he's in love with her.
應該有一個distance，
There must be a
注意。
distance between the two of them.
Samson這個人啊，
The problem with Samson is
伊冇 distance 嘅啦，
he doesn't keep the distance.
伊跨一個愛一個，跨一個愛一個，跨一個愛一個，
So he just kept desiring for one woman after another.
所以叫做幫襯啊。
So may God help us.
你若冇注意，
Unless you're cautious,
你係及 Samson 省。
you will fall into the same fate
第
as
一
Samson's.
佢嚟嘅勇士，
The strongest, the most valiant of
呢個
warriors,
失敗喺這個性嘅關係頂
he
面。
fell in this aspect of sex.
自己哋性嘅係冇一個真第一聰明嘅人，
Then you remember this one person, the wisest king.
叫做所羅門。
His name is Solomon.
因為是神坤，
He fell into the same fate actually.
然後喺啲異性嘅關係頂面失敗，
On this aspect of sexual intimacy, he failed.
而係摸財去拜偶像，
His wife would bring him to idolatry,
叫做拜偶像係 worship idol。
worship idol.
所以你無犯淫亂，但是拜偶像。
He didn't commit adultery, but he committed the sin of idolatry.
所以佢就幫襯咱。
May God help us.
咱大先停啲講嗬。其實心中有第三方面嘅軟弱，咱一擺講嚟補充我
We
哋
will
知
talk
啊。
about the third aspect, the weakness of Samson next time.
叫做幫襯咱
May God help us.
，keep distant，
Keep a safe distance.
叫做幫襯咱。